Greetings all! Today, we will be examining the rare Fire-type Pokemon Pansear, the High Temp Pokémon, and its exceptionally rare evolution Simisear, the Ember Pokémon. Though they might not look to be the most threatening of creatures, the members of the Pansear family are interesting apes that can definitely use the power of extreme heat to scorch those that would dare to challenge them. Pansear have traditional simian forms with 2 arms and legs, the feet having 3 toes each, and their hands a large pad-like hand form with thumb. Their lower face and torso are covered in beige hair, while the hair on the rest of their body and skin is red in color, including their thin tail which ends in a vaguely flame-shaped hair extension. Their ears are quite large with an orange interior, and their nose is quite small, located between their large black eyes and mouth, and the top of their head has a swirl-like form that can exude extremely high temperatures. The evolved form, Simisear, have a similar color scheme to them, with a beige torso, fingers, toes, and face, while the rest of them is red in color, the red parts of their body hair seeming to blend in nicely with their skin as a result of their fine texture. They have thick clumps of white hair on their shoulders, and their tail has morphed into a large, bushy and swirled form that makes it extremely fluffy and comfortable to grasp. Their head is also now adorned with tufts of hair that have a distinctive flame-like appearance to them, almost looking like a flaming crown, and they have 5 fingers on each hand, complete with opposable thumbs. The members of the Pansear family are typical monkeys in terms of their general anatomy, but they are distinct from most others in that they have a skewed gender ratio that favors males 8 to 1, but, more importantly, are unique in that they have the ability to raise the temperature of certain parts of their body to incredible levels by energizing a special series of pouches just beneath the skin of their body in places like their head and tail. While these creatures are generally safe to touch under normal circumstances, if they are sufficiently angered, they can activate these pouches by taking stored sugars in them and breaking them down rapidly into the most basic of elements in order to generate extreme heat that can raise the temperature of places on their body and tail to as high as 600 degrees Fahrenheit, more than enough to ignite their hair if it wasn't fireproof. This can lead to these creatures generating embers that can easily set plants and other creatures on fire, so they tend to isolate themselves in volcanic environments and caves where this is less likely to happen, though they can still be found in grasslands when imported to non-native regions. The extreme heat that these creatures can make renders the members of the family a bit of a hazard to be near, but they rarely ever release fire from their body unless they are angry or need to protect themselves, and this they can do well, as their incinerate and flame burst attacks are quite potent and can prove to be quite the painful strikes when used properly. Since they require excessive amounts of sugar in their diet in order to fuel their powers, these beasts will gladly scarf down any and all berries they can find for their juice content, to the point where they normally can only have access to the gluttony ability as a base ability. But those that are extremely in tune with their fiery powers can also possess the rare Blaze ability instead as a hidden ability. In terms of stats, and looking at Simisear, it can definitely be said that these creatures share with many mammal Pokemon a distinct lack of serious defensive strength, having little in the way of armor to protect their bodies with, and only a moderate degree of stamina to work with, and weaker special strength than that typical of a Pokemon of their type, resulting in the base HP, defense, special attack, and special defense stats being below average for fully evolved Fire-type Pokemon. On the other hand, these creatures are able to hit fairly hard with their physical attacks and are incredibly agile and fast, so the base attack and speed stats are above average for a fully evolved Pokemon of their type. And even if they don't excel greatly in these stats, it nonetheless helps to make them well-rounded offensive fighters that can make the most of their general anatomy and powers to lash out and deal some considerable damage against others, and with the agility needed to hopefully avoid any counterattacks that might come their way. Dwelling deep in volcanoes and caves, though often found in forests and grasslands when imported, Pansear don't have much to speak of in the way of truly amazing powers and abilities, their attacks and techniques all being primarily derived from their base physical form and the basic fire-type powers that biology presents them. Even so, they can easily be recognized and remembered for their generous natures, as these creatures are very good at finding berries and will gladly share any food they have on them, especially after using their fiery hair tuft to roast them to make those with hard shells easier to consume. Since they primarily feed on berries for sustenance, this seems to work out as they almost always have some sort of food item on them at all times. This generous and happy disposition makes these creatures quite popular among younger trainers and are quite easy to train, but it should be noted that there is one attribute of theirs that does make them a bit tricky to work with sometimes. For reasons that are still not entirely clear, these creatures enjoy meditating when they can in order to hone their minds and keep themselves relaxed and calm in even the most intense of situations. However, when they do this, they enter a sort of trance that allows them to stay mostly conscious, but causes sensory deprivation and removes their ability to hear for a short period of time, like Hikazaru, one of the 3 wise monkeys of Japanese origin, as they focus on keeping their minds calm and controlled. While this can make communicating with them a bit tricky as a result, this usually only lasts a few minutes at most, and does not seem to do them a lot of harm, thus rendering it a minor issue that these creatures more than make up for with their wide variety of moves. Normally, Pansear are unable to evolve in any normal capacity and are able to spend most of their lives in a pseudo-juvenile state, but if they are exposed to the radiant energy of a firestone, it causes their form to mature almost instantly as it forces them into adulthood through direct mutation, facilitating their evolution into Simisear. While this process completely strips them of the capacity to learn any new moves naturally, it does give them a considerable boost to all of their stats and makes them a far more efficient combatant, but at the same time, it can make them a serious pain to have to deal with. Aside from gaining a stronger body as a whole, evolution causes these creatures to develop some serious anger management problems, as they are extremely short-tempered and easily excited, and can be a severe threat to those around them because, when they do get angry or overly excited, their head and tails get extremely hot, with gases emitted from their skin combusting under this heat. While in this state, these beasts will flail around wildly, scattering embers from their head and tail violently in order to sear everything around them to get the overwhelming energy out of their system. This can be used to some advantage in battle to keep opponents from getting too close to them, but it nonetheless provides a fire hazard for everyone involved, and makes them generally quite unsafe to be around. Thankfully, this does not make them completely beyond help, as these creatures are known to be very obedient when sweets are in the mix, as they are highly attracted to sugary foods for their high sugar content that they need to fuel their fire-type powers. As such, using candy as a bait for both luring them and making sure they listen and stay calm is imperative to making the most of these primates, and while this can make them a bit greedy and volatile in some cases, it's still a fairly cheap bribe and serves to make them at least mildly easier to work with than other fully evolved fire-type Pokemon. While they might not be the easiest of Pokemon to get a hold of in many cases, the members of the Pansear family are loyal and fun-loving creatures that can definitely be a joy to work with if they can be utilized effectively in battle. You might have to go out of your way to find a rare Firestone to make the most of them, but at the very least, they can prove to be extremely agile and offensive fighters that can bring plenty of different offenses to the table and work well with anything they have access to. Even if you don't really want to battle them, these creatures can still make themselves of some use with their warm and fiery bodies, and are thus useful to have around. Just make sure not to excite or anger them too much, as while Pansear might not prove to be much of a hazard, you'll be in trouble if you go overexciting a temperamental Simisear and end up burning down a large patch of the surrounding land, and or yourself, without some candy on you to help keep the beast at peace. Thank you all for watching this video. It is always an honor to be able to speak with you all on the subject of Pokemon in a way that brings me great joy and happiness in my work. If you would like to keep tabs on past and future work, click that subscribe button, check out my work on DeviantArt, and don't be shy about following me on Twitter, where you can find pertinent announcements on upcoming work before it is officially posted. Links to both can be found in the video description. If you would like to support my work and help Miguel and I continue to produce more content for you and improve upon our presentation, please visit us at my Patreon page, which you can also find a link to in the video description. With that, I thank you for watching and I wish you well.